they had good games that should have been very, very successful, and disappointingly, their launch week was just horrendous. So this question comes from Patreon supporter Katinkamon. Hello, Katinkamon. I've heard that there are certain times where you should upload your game to Steam, where there's a better chance of it being seen. Is this true? Yes, but it's not fixed. It varies depending on a lot of different factors, such as, what marketing strategy you are leveraging, what kind of game you're actually releasing, whether or not you have an existing audience, and importantly, what other games are launching on any given day. Friday is known to be this popular launch day where a lot of people gravitate towards that slot, partially because Valve is said to not process games over the weekend. And, weekends are typically when people choose to consume entertainment, whether it's, games, movies, or, YouTube videos. But to follow that schedule can sometimes be a mistake, especially for smaller, unknown games, because that time slot can become very saturated and difficult for games with low budget or low marketing to gain any traction. Marketing is often counterintuitive, and what works for one will not necessarily work for another. In fact, you can have two games that are effectively very similar, both objectively good. They have the same marketing budget. They launch on the same day, yet they'll have completely different results. And that's very much the nature of marketing. It's only predictable up until a certain point. And I see this often on YouTube among other YouTube creators who tend to kind of release around that Friday or weekend time slot, specifically kind of copying the launch patterns of more established channels in their field. And while that might seem sensible, it can become very detrimental for one's own growth, because you're now competing among the more influential channels in your particular space, and not to mention the plethora of other channels who are also trying to adopt that same strategy. So in those times, you might actually find it more beneficial for success or for getting eyeballs to launch on an unorthodox day, like, midweek Wednesday or something, when, yes, maybe less people are online consuming entertainment, but you're still getting more attention, more eyes, more consumers than you would in those saturated time slots. So that's something to think about. I remember reading some launch strategy guide on Reddit some years back now. And, they had detailed statistical data about, when you should launch your game on Steam and all this kind of stuff. And that post became very popular. It was highly upvoted. And almost instantly, that statistical data was completely useless, because now every single person who read that post was now going to be using that data. So that's something to consider as well, where there's this kind of phenomenon with people where we gravitate towards another's success. And you see this in every industry. It's why you will find often, 10 Thai or Indian or Chinese restaurants or some kind of cuisine side by side on some street, because, one became established, became popular. So the next guy thought, hey, I'll do that too. And before you know it, you get a whole street full of the same thing. And that's very much what we see with games, with everyone trying to launch around the same time. So sometimes it can be interesting experiment to be an outlier and try for something else. But, that's it's a bit of a gamble sometimes with marketing. You never quite know how the coin's going to land. But you can, use your intuition and some metrics to kind of make that work. Various factors like, do you have an existing audience? If you do, then whether you launch on, a Wednesday or a Thursday is maybe not so important, because your majority of the sales that you're going to be getting are being driven by your existing user base. And that should be enough to propel you into, say, the new and trending category, which everyone wants to get into. But if you have no marketing, no audience, and you're trying to launch, on a Friday among all the big releases, you need to be aware of who is launching. And you can do that. There are calendars that are in circulation online year to year. I think one of the big IGN releases a calendar with all the upcoming big AAA releases. So it's good to get a a copy of that, and you can see the release schedules for upcoming highly anticipated games. So typically you want to try to maybe avoid releasing on the day or around the specific kind of date range of those games, and also be mindful of holidays, American holidays specifically, 4th of July, these kind of holidays, Christmas, and also importantly, festivals and Steam sales. You don't necessarily want to release a full-priced game during a Steam sale when everyone around you is like half price. It's not going to work out. And I've seen games do that. They tried to go for some maverick marketing strategy, and I followed a few of these games, and I was disappointed because they had good games that should have been very, very successful, and disappointingly their launch week was just horrendous because they tried to, either knowingly or unknowingly, I don't know, I'd like to think that they must have known they were launching during a Steam sale at full price, and it was very problematic for them. So anyways, hopefully I've given you some insight and answered your question and given you some kind of info on how to basically get started thinking about this. Thanks for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, please do drop the video a like, and thanks to all the Patreon supporters who helped make this video possible.